Hello and welcome back to the Tea and a Buddy podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
And today we're going to be discussing what we've been watching. And we're kind of turning this into a little series, aren't we, you know?
Yeah, I feel like we did this not that long
ago. But yeah, if you're enjoying hearing about what we've been watching on the TV box, on the goggle box, what do they call it? The
goggle box.
Yeah, what do they call it over
I've
here?
never heard anybody call it the goggle box until the show started.
Oh no, that was what they used to call television in Britain for a long time, was the goggle box. Oh, I'm on the goggle box.
The boob tube.
Yeah, that's the one there. The old boob tube.
Yeah.
So why was it called the boob tube?
I don't know. Because
you're
a boob if you're watching it, I guess.
Why are you a boob if you're watching
an old
TV?
Boobie,
An old boobie? Yeah. I thought it was because, like, oh yeah, you know,
only boobs watch TV.
Or there's only boobs on TV.
But a different kind of boob.
That's a different. Is it really?
Well, no. I mean, yes and no. Yeah.
I mean, you know, because at the end of the day, in America, there's a lot of like, oh no, can't show that.
Yeah.
But, you know, with the streaming services, I mean, you know, that's kind of coming to an end.
Can't show that, can't say that.
Can't show it, can't say it.
There used to be...
Don't show, don't tell.
I don't know if I'm making this up. Let me think about this as I say it.
No, I've heard it called the boob tube.
No, that is what they called it.
We call it goggle box.
No, there used to be, when I was a kid, you can't say that on television. Yeah, that was a show. I'm not just making that up.
You can't do that on television.
It was on Nickelodeon, I think. And they would slime people if you said, like, I don't know, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
They would drop slime on their heads.
We incorporated that into this show called Noel's House Party. I mean, of course, there was stuff like that for kids, but family-friendly television and Sunday nights or whatever it was, Saturday nights, there was this... variety show, I guess you could call it, although it wasn't really much of a variety show, called Noel's House Party, where the host Noel Edmonds, who was a big fixture, he was a DJ on the BBC radio, and then he became a presenter, and, you know.
Yeah.
Or was he a DJ? I can't remember. But anyway, he presented, and that's where, you know, like, they play games like Grab a Grand, where you'd have to stand in this box.
I thought you were going to say something very different right there.
Yes, I know. No, that was...
No, don't even.
You can't say that on a podcast.
Just keep going.
You'd have to stand in this box, and they'd blow money around you.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
It'd be like, I think, he's won, he's come down, he's...
Yeah.
And actually, I think sometimes it would be a celebrity of the time doing it.
Mm.
And then there'd be a gotcha. And a celebrity, you'd have to ask them, maybe answer a question or whatever like that, and a celebrity would be sitting under a bucket of slime.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, if you got it wrong or something, I can't really remember, but they get slimed. You know, gunged. They get gunged. We used to call it gunge.
Oh, yes.
It wouldn't be slime. It was gunge. And, of course, Mr. Blobby. Mr. Blobby was the...
Yeah,
that's where he came from.
Have we ever talked about Mr. Blobby?
I think
on
we
this
have.
Podcast? I'm pretty sure you
Blobster.
posted something about it on Instagram.
Yeah, Blobby. He was, you know, since the advent of the internet, I mean, people in the US and across the world have become, you know, aware of Mr. Blobby. And like, and it's like he was this.
If you don't know what we're talking about, just look him up.
Yeah, Mr. Blobby. He was this character on Noel's House Party. That's where he got his start on it.
Yeah.
It would be just like, okay, no, and then you'd only hear his son is Blobby, 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 and he'd be like, oh, he's back. He was just an agent of chaos, basically.
And he just looked like a blob.
And Noel Edmonds used to be like, all right, Blobs, no. We're going on holiday, but we're not inviting you. Yeah. And Blobby will be sad, and the audience will be like, oh, poor Mr. Blobby. And he's just like, Blobby, Blobby. You know? He was just big pink blob guy.
You know
He was a blob guy.
He was a blob. He was a blob guy.
And he had a hit single in 1993, which I think it wasn't the Christmas #1, but it was a massive hit single.
God.
Kids loved him, but then kids of today in Britain go, oh God, he's so terrifying.
He's traumatized.
Yeah, like we watched Big Fat Quiz of like the 90s.
Yeah.
And of course they had Mr. Blobby on, and Jack Whitehall was like, yeah, he terrified me as a kid. He's a slightly bit younger than me, but, you know, he would be about, you know, Mr. Blobby was still a thing in the 90s, and then he just kind of went off to, like, the archive.
You know the box that you were talking about where people stand in and they would blow money up
and
off
they'd have
the
to
ground
grab a
and you'd have
grand,
to
catch it and put it in your thing so you wouldn't...
I can't remember. That definitely was a thing over here. It was not like a show unto itself or anything. It was probably like a little segment on game shows or something. Anyway, I've seen it my whole life. It's been on various, I guess, game shows over the years. Yeah. Actually, I think maybe The View even recently had a thing where they were doing it sometimes. Like, so
it's like a morning show thing.
They would get in and get the money, and then give it to an audience member or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, I always wonder, like, how are they not getting so much? How come they can't seem to catch a hold of it?
Yeah.
They're reaching like that, and it's just like, just get it. What are you doing?
I think they wore, like, something like a jacket when it blew.
Yeah.
All the money blew up it and got stuck under there, and they'd just be like, oh, yeah, I'm catching it. Yeah, this is it. And they're like, oh, and I think they stopped it because,
you could pull your shirt out and let it all blow
that's what
up.
They were doing, shoving it down their pants and all that. It was just hilarious stuff.
They'd be grabbing it with their hands, though, and it was just like, they couldn't get it. They'd be like that, oh, I can't. And I'm just like, why? Why can't you?
Because
I don't understand.
It's how much money are they blowing around in there?
Yeah,
really?
Well, it looks like a lot.
It looks like a lot, yeah, but I mean, you've got to... Over here, it would look like even more because you've got dollar bills.
They're actually reaching, and they're just not grabbing as big of handfuls as you think they should be able to get. And it's just like, what is the holdup here? I don't understand.
You could be the hostess. What is the holdup here? Why are you not catching more?
Yes. Like, how is it slipping out of your hands? Like
it must be very powerful fans, I guess.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But
anyway. Yeah, I mean, what we're talking about Noel's House Party was just a show in the 90s, and now, it ended.
Yeah.
Like, sometime before the end of the 90s, and now Noel Edmonds lives in New Zealand and he's retired.
Okay.
So it's just like, because he was presenting Deal or No Deal in the UK.
Oh, was he? Yeah.
He was the Howie Mandel of...
Oh, okay.
And then, he's retired now, so... Yeah. But anyway, back to what we've been watching. Updating you on what we've been watching.
Because we did this when we were still in Britain. We did like an episode of like everything, all the British shows we were watching.
All the British shows you were watching.
All the British shows we were watching while we were over there. So it was sort of recently that we've done this. But we go through periods where we're like...
We don't watch anything.
Where we don't really watch anything. I don't know. We're maybe just watching YouTube and a little bit of, we can't find anything. And then there's periods where there's like, oh, there's quite a lot out that we haven't seen actually. Let's binge everything. That's
the problem, you see. It's like we're not watching shows as they're coming out because I don't like to do that now.
Yeah, you don't like it.
I've been spoiled by
we have to wait till next week for this to come out.
I mean, sometimes it's okay, but it's like sometimes I'm like, But
I find, and I don't know if we've mentioned this before.
Can I just binge this and all in one day?
But I find, and you know this about me, that when we binge something, I can't remember it almost immediately after.
Yeah, like Succession, you're not going to remember it.
Maybe not. I don't know. I hope that
Game of Thrones, you don't remember it.
I hope that
you have to rewatch it.
We're kind of... Well, yeah. No, literally. We were out to dinner with one of our friends, one of Dominic's old school friends, when we were in Britain. And he asked me, we were talking about, I don't know, watching stuff, I guess. And Game of Thrones came up. And he said, oh, you're a fan of Game of Thrones? What did you think of the finale? And I could not remember. I was like, I don't...
What happened in the finale?
It's like, I remember what happened in the finale, but also, did I remember it well enough to, like, give an opinion? You know what I mean? Like, I've seen it...
I can't remember. I mean, I liked Game of Thrones, but I don't know. I'm just kind of like...
I'm rewatching Game of Thrones, is why we're talking about Game of Thrones. Yeah. But no, I have that problem when we binge watch things, like... I mean, not immediately. I said immediately afterward. But, like, I don't know, a month later, you'll maybe mention it, and I'll be like, oh, yeah, what happened in that? I don't remember. I can't remember any of the characters' names. I've got a capacity
for remembering stuff, though.
I can't remember any of the characters' names. I can remember, like, the biggest plot points, and that's, like, kind of about it. And I hate that, because we binge watch some actually pretty good shows. And I'm just like, I don't know, I just cannot... There's something about, like, spacing it out week to week.
Maybe.
That makes it go in my head better. I don't know
because
why.
it's being given to you, like, drip, drap.
I guess.
Drip, drip, drop, little April showers.
But it's not as if I'm rewatching that same episode within the week multiple times. I only watch it as many times as we watch it when we binge. So what about that makes me be able to remember it? I have more time for it to sink in, I guess, and I'm talking about it, and I'm seeing maybe articles about the episode or something like that, which is keeping it fresh in my mind. Whereas usually when we binge, like you said, the show's already finished. So there's not any really, like, fresh articles coming out, you know, about, last night's episode of da-da-da, you know, reviews.
And I'm not like someone who likes to go and spoil it, you know, like, this is what's going to happen in the finale. I have to go look it up on the internet now. I don't understand that about some people who do that, because they need to know. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, well, why don't you just watch the show and go, that's what happened? Well,
my mom is like that. She's terrible for that.
But I've known there's other people who are like that too. They need to know immediately. And it's like, what's that going to do for you? Yeah. You know? It's like, I mean, it's just indicative of, like, people who don't really want to watch a show.
My aunt apparently is like that too. I think we talked about her we talked about that last time we saw her. And I was talking about my mom. And she said, and my aunt said, "Oh yeah, I do the same thing.
I read the back of the book.
They read the last page of the book or the last few pages of the book before they start reading the book." And it's like, why? Oh, because I have to know how it's going to end. And
but it's like
but
you
then
don't
you're
know
ruining
how life
the whole,
is going to end.
But then you're ruining the whole thing. Like, for me, the enjoyment of reading a book is, like, the build up to the finale. Like, you know, like...
Yeah, I mean, if you get into the psychology of it all, it's like, I want to know what's coming. Yeah. It's like if someone goes, I know how you're going to die.
Let us know.
Do you want to know?
Let us know if any of you listening are like that. Because to me, I just thought, surely my mom was the only person who does that, but apparently there are other people
I've seen other people who, you know, they've talked about it online on Reddit and stuff.
It's
like
unhinged, in my opinion.
It's in my. It's like, what is the point of watching the show then, or reading the book?
Yes.
If you know how it's going to end before, it's like, it's like, well, no, you don't get to read it now.
But there's some books where, like, the ending is not going to make any sense if you haven't met the characters.
Nothing is going to make any sense.
Yeah.
Really?
I don't know.
I'm going to watch this show now, but wait a minute. It's finished. I'll go and look online and see how did, whatever end.
Yeah.
And so died. So it's like, so I know he's going to die now, so I'll just watch it. He's going to die. Yeah,
just so I'm not surprised.
And I think it is that it's that kind of.
It's people who don't want to be surprised. But it's also like,
I've never seen this show before. Well, I know. Do you want to know what happens? He dies. The guy dies at the end. That's why some people do it. You know, they want to, like, know the information. But that's not my mom. Like,
she's not going to tell you. You know. The funny thing is, she's not going to tell
you, but she's going to be like, I know what happened.
Yes.
And it's like, no, that's not. It's the same with your mum's not really like that, but
she's not going to, but she's not going to tell you. If you ask, she wouldn't tell you. If you ask, all right, what happened then? And she'd be like, I'm not going to tell you. She'd be like, you look it up. You have to look it up. I don't know.
Yes.
It's unhinged. They're unhinged.
Well, no, and it's kind of like, there's going to be no spoilers. It's like, I don't want to watch that show.
I like
and it's surprise. Like, because it's not finished yet, is it? You don't know how it's going to end.
I'm like the opposite of that, though.
I like to watch the story unfold.
I like a surprise
I've seen spoilers
in
and
life
it annoyed
in general.
Me, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And good surprises. I don't like bad surprises, obviously. Nobody likes a bad surprise, but sometimes I watch a show and I'm disappointed and I'm wanting it to surprise me with the writing. I'm wanting to not be able to predict how this is going to end, and it's disappointing when it happens exactly the way you thought it was going to. It's just like,
wah. But anyway, one story that we don't know what's going to happen with it is Welcome to Wrexham on Hulu. And that's another one. It's a documentary series. It's not a
and
show.
nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows what's going to happen.
And it was quite entertaining to watch, because I think we started watching it after we watched Ted Lasso.
We watched Ted Lasso, then we watched the
Beckham documentary.
David Beckham documentary.
And then we watched Welcome to Wrexham, because we thought, oh, well, that's been getting a load of awards and...
I like Ryan Reynolds.
Critical points and all that,
Yeah.
And Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney.
I mean, I had no idea who he was.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You'll know him
Another show we've never seen.
Yeah, I think it's still going. It might have ended, I don't know.
No idea.
But anyway, they buy Wrexham Football Club in Wales.
Yeah.
Which, they form a little, like, conglomerate, whatever, corporation and buy it.
Yeah.
And so it's their journey of buying it and then taking it out. Because in football, it's not like over here where, like, in the NFL and all that, there's no, whoever finishes last is just, okay, we'll play again next season and see where they go. They're still in the NFL. They're still in the MLS. They're still in NBA, whatever,
Yeah.
There's no real, like, oh, they're going to be going into a bottom league now.
No.
You're never going to see the Yankees finish last and go, well, it's relegation time.
We're relegating you to the minor leagues
Relegating to the minor leagues
New
now.
York Yankees is now a minor league team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what happens in Premiership football, in, like, professional
football. I think most
football.
Americans don't know that, unless they're, like, soccer fans.
And Wrexham, I don't know if they were ever in the Premier League. They may have been, like, 100-odd years ago. The Premier League is kind of, like, relatively new, I guess. I don't even know if they call it that. Oh yeah, they do call it the Premier League now, and then there's the Championship, and then there's, like, League One and League Two, and I think they were in League Two, weren't they?
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't know.
Yeah, I think they were in League Two, and they were kind of like, and it's a hard... Or maybe it was the National League. I think it was the National League, and that's under League Two.
There's about, like, 7 leagues, and then there's a billion under that, which are all just basically organized, but... If you watch Ted Lasso, it's a little... They deal with it. They explain it.
They explain it a bit, because, he's, the classic, he's American. It's like, oh, so what do you do? What do you do with it? Oh, we just all keep playing,
Yeah.
If you finish last, that's it, it's like better luck next season. It's like, it's not like a thing of like, oh, well, you're out of this league then.
Yeah.
It's a bit more serious, because it's about money, basically, People
Yeah.
spending money, and they're like, yeah, and it's a league, and we don't want them in the league if they're crap, Get them out,
Yeah.
Relegate them. Whereas over here, it's just like everybody's making money, there's fans of whatever, and it's just like, yeah, this is just sport.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's how it should be, really.
Yeah.
But, that's how it happens. And so they've been languishing in the National League, and they got, they've had a lot of bad luck. So they come in, and then they're just like, well, we don't know what's going on. We'll get this guy who knows. I can't remember his name now. It wasn't Humphrey. Humphrey was the guy that got Rob McElhenney into it, because I thought, well, this is a bit of an odd situation. Why would Ryan Reynolds want to buy a football team? We discovered it was Rob McElhenney who talked him into it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little bit of a spoiler of the documentary, but...
Yeah, just before we continue on with everything that we've watched, if you don't want spoilers, when we start talking about these various shows, there are probably going to be spoilers. So just fast forward through.
Fast forward through, or just not listen to this episode of the podcast. No, I mean, in the documentary, it kind of like, oh, okay, so it was Rob McElhenney's idea.
Yeah.
And he just, him and Ryan Reynolds have been having this kind of like Twitter bromance or whatever, tweeting back, and they'd never actually met.
In person.
Yeah. Because they're kind of at
just
opposite
kind of like
ends,
online friends.
Opposite ends of the industry. You know, he was in TV, and Ryan Reynolds is in film, and he's quite a big star,
Yeah.
So, I was like, oh, well, I'm going to buy this team, Rob, and I need film star money. Ryan, Ryan's like, okay, let's do it,
Yeah.
And so they did it, and it looked like it was going to be a sound investment, and, so far so good, maybe. You
I
know?
mean, no. At first, it looked like it was not going to be a sound investment.
Because yeah, it was very grim. You know, they went to the first few matches, and it was just like, oh, you know, this team is not good.
Yeah.
And so they started putting it out on Twitter, and then of course the fans started having a say, going, "You should buy this guy from League 2.
Mm-hmm.
He'll and this guy. If you've got the money, buy this guy. If you've got that, buy this guy." And he was like, "Yeah, no, that's true. If we can get them, sign them up.
Yeah,
we'll start scoring some goals. We'll start winning some stuff." You know?
It really has worked out in their favor. This whole project and putting it on camera and everything, hasn't it? Because it is coming out
and it's generating a little bit of revenue as well. You know, they're getting like, you know, a bit of sponsors and stuff like that. And, you know, there was a little bit of like, oh, we're a football team, you know, we don't need to be doing all these fancy sponsors for shaving cream and whatever, you know, but it's like, you need that money. Yeah. Money's going into the club.
It's like, we're actors and we have money, but it's going to run out eventually. We need corporate money.
Yeah. We need corporate money to, you know,
to keep going. And
it's a good documentary. I mean,
it's really good.
We watched the first 2 seasons of it, and I think there's a third coming out.
Yeah, and I suppose if you're somebody who reads the last page of the book before you read the rest of the book, I suppose you could do that each season, because obviously the soccer season is finished.
It's finished now,
or it's finishing as they're putting out the early episodes.
You can follow them in real time. You know?
So you can know what's happening ahead of watching it in the documentary. If you choose to do that. Yeah.
As far as that's on Hulu, by the way. Welcome to Wrexham.
Yeah. I think it comes on like FX or something though. I think
FX too. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to watch it episode by episode. Yeah. It comes out episode by episode on Hulu too, though, doesn't it? They don't put it all out at once.
Yeah, no, because we had to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's not like Netflix.
Yeah.
Where it just does the thing. Mm-hmm. You know.
Does the thing.
You know, they drop, with The Crown, they drop the first part and then the second part.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're starting to do that now with stuff, you know. On Paramount Plus, we've been watching Lower Decks, which is a Star Trek show. It's an animated Star Trek show.
I think we've mentioned that before.
We've mentioned that before. It's, you know, I mean, if you're a Star Trek fan, you'll know all about it. It's basically like a love letter to the classic series.
It's a comedy.
Yeah. And, you know, it's very funny you know, a lot of references that, you know, Trekkies will get. I mean, I love it. You know, there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh no, don't like it. It's animated, taking a piss." But it's really it's taking the piss in a loving way. You know, it's banter. It's just banter. It's great banter. So yeah, we've been watching that, and we've been watching the new Frasier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the new series of Frasier, which people were prepared to kind of go, "Oh, it's not going to be good without David Hyde Pierce and and Daphne."
To be real, for me anyway, it takes a little bit of getting used to everybody else not being there, because it's literally just Kelsey Grammer as Frasier.
He moved back to Boston,
and I think that was a really terrible decision if they weren't going to have anybody from Cheers on.
Maybe Cheers has been demolished.
It's like
maybe it's a corporate building now.
They make him move to, you know, his son lives in Chicago or somewhere. Oh well, they had Lilith. Lilith
came back. Yeah.
To be fair to Kelsey Grammer, he jumped right back into
back into it. Yeah. It's got Nicholas Lyndhurst in it as his old Oxford University buddy Alan.
Yeah, he's basically like a sidekick, like the comedic relief.
The comedic relief. He's always drunk.
Like
he's a professor,
like a Daphne kind of a character.
Kind of like a Daphne character, but also kind of like a Martin kind of character too.
I guess.
Maybe he's supposed to. Maybe Frasier's supposed to be the Martin character now.
I think his son is more comparable to Martin.
Maybe,
actually.
Yeah, that's true.
The son obviously has always been in the show as well, just not the same actor the whole time. Frederick. Yeah. It's not bad. It's like if you like the same.
It's in the same format, in the same style, you know.
I want to call it old-fashioned style of sitcoms.
Yes, it is. Well, I mean, that's the kind of thing that's still popular on the networks over here is the old-fashioned.
I mean,
Matt LeBlanc and his dad's show and the mom's show.
That's
I mean,
not a thing anymore.
that's not a thing anymore.
I think that was almost not a thing as soon as it was a thing.
It's, you know, yeah, but I mean, it's the same kind of thing that they're kind of like touting on the networks.
I guess.
I mean, they're kind of struggling because, you know, there's so many other, like, I think quirky British humour's invading. That's the new British invasion, is the quirky British humour.
Well, it's the thing we talk about all the time. It's because of the internet, right? Like
the internet, man.
Yeah, because people have access to it now, you know.
Like Ghost CBS.
Yeah. It's funny. Oh, this is just a side note again. It's funny how the networks are showing all of these streaming shows.
Well, I mean, they have to.
Because of the strikes.
I mean, Hulu
happened,
is ABC, so yeah, you know, like, so you're going to get, like...
What is that, Only Murders in the Building?
Only Murders in the Building. That was recommended to us by a patron.
Yeah, we have not seen that.
And they've been watching it, and they go, oh, yeah, you'll love it. And I was like, oh, that sounds good. I've kind of seen a bit of it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, not like an episode or anything. I've seen the trailers and stuff, and I thought, oh, that actually does look kind of interesting.
Well, I love Steve Martin and Martin Short. But apparently that was a streaming show that they're putting on network TV because, you know, they've got no content. Do they? You know, it's like, yeah, they're gonna have to move some of this stuff over to network TV at least for a season or so. But yeah, anyway, Frasier is good if you like that kind of old fashioned. If you're a fan of Cheers, if you're a fan of the original Frasier, you probably like this.
I've only seen like a few episodes of Frasier and a few episodes of Cheers. I've never like watched them all the way through.
Oh, really? I thought you had seen most of Frasier.
Probably at some point. I got a couple of friends who were into
I love Cheers. I mean, it's a classic. You really can't beat that one. Yeah.
Yeah, but moving over to Netflix, Love at First Sight and All the Light You Cannot See.
Oh, yeah.
Love at First Sight, that was kind of like a...
That was a Christmas movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of like a Hallmarky movie.
It wasn't.
Yes, it was.
No.
Anything that's got like, oh, they fall in love on a plane.
Yeah, but usually no one's dying in a Hallmark movie. Hallmark movies are more like Disney.
Who was dying in it?
Spoiler alert. His mother.
Seriously.
His mother.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
Somebody's already dead in a Hallmark movie.
Yes, they're already dead.
The wife is dead.
Hallmark's like Disney. Someone's dead. Someone has died, but it doesn't happen. They're not actively dying on screen.
You know what we're talking about here, you Hallmarky roosters.
Yeah.
It's like...
I guess it was sort of Hallmarky, I suppose. Yeah, it was a bit more dramatic, a bit more British quirky.
Well, it had the guy who used to play Pete Beale on EastEnders playing the lead role.
Okay.
Yeah, he was like the son and all that, you know, so I guess this was kind of his way of trying to break out of the soap world in Britain. And I think he did a pretty good job. He was, you know...
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, I mean, it was... the
main girl, we've seen her in something also.
Yeah.
I can't remember what. Oh, you know what she was in? She was in The White Lotus, which we'll talk about in a minute. But
in a minute, we're getting to that.
She was in the second season of that. But I think we had seen her in something else besides that also. It's about an American girl meeting a British guy in the airport. They're both going to London and they happen to sit together on the plane.
Yes.
And they sort of like fall in love on the plane.
Very Hallmarky.
Yeah. No, it was better than... I mean, no offense.
It was better than Hallmark.
No offense to anyone who likes and loves Hallmark.
Shot across the bow there.
But it was better. There was more of a story there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying.
Next, we're talking about something that we're going to... It's not even another period piece. It's a today piece.
Okay.
It's contemporary. Saltburn.
Crap.
You've heard. It's on Prime. Saltburn with Barry Keoghan.
Everyone loves it.
Everyone loves the end of it.
No, everyone loves it. They love all of it. I've only seen people going, oh, shocked faces, or they love it. I haven't seen anybody say, what a load of crap.
All TikTok is Sophie Ellis-Bextor with Murder on the Dance Floor, and that only featured in the end of it.
Well, yeah, because that's the only song that was in it, really. If anybody remembers.
That's
so it's
all
like,
everybody
let's play that
remembers is
song
the end of
because
it. And they're
everybody
all
loves the
dancing
movie.
around, aren't they? They're all dancing around.
The thing about it is, if you have seen The Talented Mr. Ripley, you've seen this movie.
Yeah.
As soon as it got going, I was like, this is a ripoff of The Talented Mr. Ripley. I don't know. I'm going to be controversial here and say that it was okay. It was absolutely nothing
controversial
special.
And say it was a load of crap.
It was a load of crap. It was.
It was a load of crap. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, I know people love it, but it was a load of crap. There was no real substance to it.
Mm-mm.
It was kind of just for the
People
shock
were like,
value.
oh,
and I
was
think
the
even the
art.
producers, Margot Robbie had an executive producer. I think she even came out and said, yeah, it was for shock value.
People were like, it was art because it's shot in what do you call that? What do you call the way that it was
4.3
4.3
ratio, yeah. It's like
it was 4.3 ratio, which is like a square, like
the
you would
standard
see.
television, standard definition, kind of like anything before 2005, basically.
The lighting and the graininess of it gave it like a sort of
a vintage
60s,
feel, yeah.
70s, 80s, somewhere in there.
I appreciated that little bit of it, but the content was just absolute crap.
So at first, because it was like 4:3 ratio and that sort of like grainy texture, I was like, okay, so we're set in the
I thought we were going to be set
somewhere.
in the past, and it was just kind of like trying to look like an old movie, but it was just trying to look like an old movie. And I appreciated that from the artistic
gimmick
point of... Well, not really a gimmick.
Gimmicky.
Think about it, right? If they'd done it like if it was a period piece, and it was actually well-written... You know?
I mean, the writing
and
was
it wasn't
not
just
terrible.
like, oh yeah, we're going to put in a few scenes here that are going to make you go, what?
I mean, the thing about it is the writing was not terrible. You're not watching it going, oh, this is terrible. This is, I've definitely seen stuff where the writing is way worse. The writing was fine.
Yeah.
But it was just nothing. Like, there
was no substance to it.
I really do not understand. I really think that the people who love this, and no offense if you are one of the people who loved this just have never seen a movie like it before.
Maybe, or there may be people who like psychopath movies, you know?
I guess, yeah, if you like psychological, but there was nothing new about this, though.
It was like a Dateline.
If you've
thing.
seen it was like a Dateline.
It was.
If you've seen The Talented Mr. Ripley, if you've seen American Psycho, if you've seen any of those kind of like psychological thrillers, you've seen this movie. Like, but this is just those with like unnecessarily graphic scenes. Just for complete shock value. Which kind of...
Saltburn.
Yeah.
And squeezing Barry Keoghan's face all the time.
Oh, I don't know what that means.
You know, because he's got one of those faces, Barry Keoghan, you know. I think that's what it was.
I don't know.
I mean...
I was not impressed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just kind of like, meh.
It had quite a good cast.
Yes, it had a great cast.
Yeah. It was just disappointing. I don't know.
And I felt like, oh, it's going for a little bit of a With Nail and I vibe, but it's like, no, it bloody wasn't. I mean, they had Richard E. Grant in there, who was excellent in With Nail and I, but it was just like, no.
It was The Talented Mr. Ripley. I mean, it was The Talented Mr. Ripley redone with to be even more shocking. But the thing is like, if it was shocking for a reason,
yes,
then you wouldn't be so annoyed at the end of it. You know what I mean? Because it would be like, all right. But it was just shocking to be shocking, which makes it just like, oh God, get a life, you know? Like,
yes.
Just, I don't know. It wasn't one of those movies where at the end you feel like, oh, I've just wasted 2 hours of my life. Although I think I did say, what did I just watch?
I mean, I'm not going to rush to watch it again.
No. I would not watch it again. I would not recommend it to anyone. I think it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay, if you want to see, like, weird, creepy sex scenes and, like, Barry Keoghan, is that how we're pronouncing his last
Barry
name?
Keoghan, I think his name is, yeah. Or Keoghan,
naked.
maybe.
Like, just skip to those parts, and there you go.
Murder on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's all they want. That's all they wanted in that movie. That could have been the movie.
Yeah.
Just him doing that for 2 hours straight, dancing around the house.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
They could just replay, like, hours-long loops of Sophie Ellis-Bextor.
If you don't know what it's about, Barry Keoghan is,
he plays this guy, this sad guy.
A mentally disturbed Oxford student who becomes obsessed with another student.
A student who's got old money.
Yeah.
And Barry Keoghan's character is,
it's a little bit like, oh, is he in love with him? Is he obsessed with him? He just wants to be him. He's just a psycho. The end.
The end. Oh, we're way over time.
Okay, sorry.
So, yeah.
Yeah, let's just...
well, we got Doctor Who on Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah.
The next season of it is...
It's looking like it's going to be good. We would just watch the Christmas specials.
In Ncuti Gatwa, yeah.
With David Tennant,
yeah. David Tennant and Catherine Tate. They're back for... well, they were back for those specials. Special. And then, Ncuti Gatwa is now the new Doctor.
Yeah. And
it looks like it's going to be good.
I like what I've seen so far. Yeah. I have high hopes for the new season. We'll see, but it's looking positive, I think.
It's looking positive, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we have The White Lotus.
Yeah, you didn't watch that with me.
Yeah, that was your...
I think I mentioned maybe in the last podcast that when like the Golden Globes and the Emmys and stuff comes on, when I'm needing something new to watch, I kind of like go, okay, which ones were the shows and things that were up for the awards, and kind of see what they're about to see if, oh, maybe this is something I want to check out. And The White Lotus was one of those. And it's really good. I was disappointed that you didn't watch it with me. I think you would have enjoyed it, actually.
Maybe I will give it a try at some point.
It's a whodunit. It's like a...
Whodunit.
Yeah. It's kind of like a whodunit type thing. But dark comedy.
Yeah.
And set entirely in a resort, in a hotel,
Yeah.
The first one is set in Hawaii. The next one is set, same hotel chain. The hotel chain is the White Lotus.
Yeah.
But set in Italy, I think we were now. But yeah, it's really good. Apparently they're working on season 3, so I can't wait for that, actually, because it's... Yeah, it was it was fun. It was a fun little...
It was a fun little series. Fun little show for you. Mm-hmm. And we're just almost to the end of this next one. Succession.
Oh, yes.
On Max. Also on Max.
Yeah.
So
I hadn't even really heard of this show.
I'd heard bits and pieces about it.
I hadn't even really heard
I'd heard
of it.
a lot of people talking about a guy named Logan Roy and Brian Cox.
Had you?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah. I'd seen a lot of people going, and Brian Cox talking about the finale of Succession, because it ended this year, or last year.
Yeah.
And so, I thought, oh, it's just about... And I didn't really look too much into it until we were like, okay, it's winning awards.
It won all the awards, yeah. So we were like, let's see what it's all about. Let's watch the first... I think we said, let's watch the first episode and see if we
like
get into
it. And we got into it.
Yeah, pretty much straight away. Again, it's like a quirky British comedy. I mean, it's not British.
It's not British,
but
it's made by a team of British people.
It's the same style of The Thick of It.
The Thick of It, Veep, Peep Show,
The Office.
The Office.
Yeah.
It's
a similar... It's shot in a similar style.
Shot in a similar style.
Comedy
and the characters are similar. And it's about a corporate family.
Yeah.
And who's going to be the next CEO of this multi-mega...
When the dad, who is quite old, when he dies,
He's played by Brian Cox, and of course he was probably the standout character on this,
Oh, yeah.
He was the lead character of the ensemble.
The cast is actually really good.
And the cast, the cast is very good. I mean,
the
principal ones play his kids.
Probably my two favorite characters, though, are the two that are more of the side characters. They're not the kids.
Tom and Greg.
AKA
the Disgusting Brothers.
They're just so So their acting is, Tom is played by Matthew McFadyen for any Pride and Prejudice fans
the Keira
out there.
Knightley version, of course.
He's Mr. Darcy. And he's just so un-Mr. Darcy in this.
Well, it's just
great.
It's a chance to become like, they're him and Greg. I mean, Greg is kind of like his sidekick. He takes him under, and he's part of the family too, this Greg, because it's kind of like,
he's a cousin.
He's a cousin, and
Tom is married in.
Is married in.
Yeah.
So they're both kind of outsiders.
Yeah.
So they get together. They both kind of similar kind of humor. So they're the disgusting brothers, And I mean, everybody loves them.
It's wacky. It's dark at times.
I mean, it's dark comedy. There's cringe
wacky.
Comedy there,
So cringe. It's really, really well done. Like,
yes, it's when I was watching it, I was like, it's just like watching the thick of it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you looked it up, and it was written by a guy who co-created the thick of it, or he wrote for the thick of it.
He was one of the writers of the thick of it.
Also Peep Show as well.
Oh, yeah,
He co-created that too.
Yeah.
Jesse Armstrong, I think his name is.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, this guy can write that style so well.
Yeah.
It's like, that is it.
It's just it's very, very un-PC, but just in the funniest way. It's
Kieran Culkin plays.
Kieran Culkin is great.
He's the youngest son, I think. Isn't he?
Roman
Kendall.
Yeah,
and
the cast.
Roman Roy, and Kendall is played by I can't remember his name now, but he's kind of a method actor, isn't he?
Yeah, apparently he's quite intense.
He's quite intense compared to Kieran Culkin's Roman, and it's just like they get all these characters together and they do like, let's do an improvised scene.
Oh yeah, there's apparently
they
a
do
lot
that.
of
They did that in the thick. They did that in the thick of it a lot, just so it comes off naturally.
Yeah.
You got a scene there, and they just given you the context of the scene, and they're just like, okay, go. How would you think your character would dialogue would be?
Yeah.
And we'll shoot a scripted bit, and we might intermix the two, or we'll just go with one. And you can tell sometimes there's a lot of like awkward pauses.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like watching a play.
Well, no,
where
it's like
someone's
real life,
gone off
isn't
script,
it?
And they're just like, crap, how do I respond to that? But it works so very well.
Well, yeah, because
I
love it
like
when
watching,
they do that.
It's watching like it's watching like a secret kind of documentary. You know?
I love it when they do that, because as good as a really well written show is, you still know you're watching a written show.
Yes.
But when you allow the actors to say the things that they think their character would say, it becomes more real, because it is organic, because they are just coming up with it off the top of their head. And sometimes there's pauses because you're waiting for the other person to reply, but it's just so that happens
like,
in life, doesn't it?
I've read the script. I know you're supposed to say this at this sign, and you're not saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of the dinner scenes being all improvised are just like,
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes it's just like, some of the stuff they come up with is hilarious,
Yes. And sometimes it's just like, what? But that is real life, isn't it?
Real life.
Sometimes people say things to you in real life that's just like, what are you talking? I mean, it happens in this podcast all the time, isn't it?
We're going to level with you. We do an improvised episode, and then we do a scripted episode, and always the improvised episode gets ahead.
Oh my god. If they wanted to listen to scripted podcasts, they would definitely be not listening to us.
Oh, no. Anything goes.
Oh my gosh.
But
anyway. Let us know if you watch any of the shows that we've mentioned.
Highly recommend them.
What you think, which ones are your favorites. And let us know any that you recommend that we did not mention, because we're always looking for something new to watch. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. Special shout out to our patrons for their much valued continual support.
2024 is going to be a great year.
Thank you so much. Be sure to give us a follow on social media if you don't already. We are at TBuddy everywhere, and we'll talk to you all next time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.